Okay, so our fabric is now, our dress is rolled up onto the dowel, and now we need to thread our pleater. But before we thread our pleater, we need to decide how many rows that you want to pleat up. And the pattern just had 5 dots on it, but that doesn't mean that you're only going to do 5 rows, okay? There are lots of different patterns, smocking plates, and they come in a range of how many different rows, okay? You can just pretty much go through your designs or get online and look for some designs and kind of decide which one you would like to do. Many of them have, I like the ones that come with a bonnet and sleeve design added in, since I always smock my sleeves, and lots of times I make a bonnet to go with the dress too. So it's nice to be able to have those extra designs to work with. So just kind of go through and, see if there's a design you like. Now with this series, I might create a design for you. I haven't decided yet. But for now, what I have done is I have threaded 9 needles, and I'm going to also thread a holding row, and that will be at the very top. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 rows, with 9 being the holding row. Okay, so now we're just going to take our fabric. We're going to bring it to the back of your pleater. And my holding row, I like to keep my holding row really like probably a notch. And there's notches in this dowel rod. I like to run my holding row as close to that as I can, because you're not going to smock on your holding row. Your holding row is only there so that when you put your binding on your neck edge, you will have a gathering thread to pull that up to ease in that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get started on running this dress through. And I'm keeping that holding row up close to the top edge. And I'm going to tilt this so that maybe you can see. And then I'm just going to run this through. Sometimes I pull this over. Sometimes it helps if you have another person that can help you pleat up a bishop, but really I think you can do it. You just go slow and just keep pulling your fabric through and making sure that nothing gets doubled up or bunched up underneath as you run this through. And you want to make sure that when you get to your seam line, start pulling these off so that you don't get too much fabric bunched up on the needles. Now, one key to keep in mind is as you run this through your pleater, you want to try to get those seam lines to run through as straight as possible. And it shouldn't be hard to crank over that seamed edge. If it's hard to crank over that edge, then you've got too thick of a seam line. So just keep pulling it through and keep pulling your fabric off from your needles. We're just going to crank this whole dress on through, keeping just easy tension through it. You really want your seam lines to be hidden within those pleats, and not show as much as possible. I mean, sometimes it's hard and they do show, but your goal is to try to get this dress to go through with those seam lines being well hidden. You want to try to keep that fabric taut as it goes through too, so that you don't get any ripples between the needles. Just keep pulling that thread out. I'm on my last sleeve. About to go over that seam line. Everything looks like it's going through pretty straight. Sometimes when I get to the end, I just, let my dowel fall out. It doesn't matter because I don't have as much fabric on the end here that I'm working with that needs to be out of the way. And I can make sure that I'm pulling this and getting it to go through even. And those last few, when you get towards the end, you'll be able to see if your fabric is going through straight or not. If it's not and it's really crooked, it might be best to just pull all those threads out and start all over, because you want it to be straight. You want to end up with as many pleats at the top of the neckline as you have down at the bottom row of your gathering threads. Okay. Now once you do this, you're going to pull this off. Now, this is where you're going to use a ton of thread, and you're probably, you're going to waste thread, but there's no way around it. I pull off a good hunk because you want to be able to flatten this whole dress out within the round. So get these off from the needle and then just work this down so that you got a good hunk of threads here at the top on one end. And I would go ahead and tie those off in groups of 2 or groups of 3, just so that when you're pulling on this, you don't run any risk of any of these threads coming out of your pleats. That's a mess when that happens. You can sometimes pick those pleats up by hand, but it's a headache. So the safest bet is to go ahead and get one end knotted off, and you don't knot it off tight to your fabric, knot it off tight or out to the edge. Alright, so I've got those all knotted off, and now I'm going to still pull out some excess threads, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut them off nice and long. Just to be on the safe side, I'm going to pull all the way to the end of this thread, and I'm going to knot these off too. This is just a safety precaution in keeping your pleating threads in the material so that you don't have to go back and pick up pleats. and it can be tied in groups of 2s and 3s. Okay, so I have those all knotted off. All right, and so this is what, here's it all pleated up. All right, and that's my back side. As you can see some of my seam lines that are in there. They show a little on the back side, but you can't hardly find them on the front side. And once we block this, they should be pretty well hidden and within the pleats. The next thing I'm going to demonstrate is I'm going to get my micro check rolled onto the dowel, and you're going to roll your micro check one on exactly the same way that I did the white one, and we're going to run it through the pleater the exact same way, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. It looks a little different. It has a little varying, like a moire look to it, and I'm going to show you what that looks like.